thou mine, and I shall be thine. The human spirit before fused with the body enjoys closeness or intimacy with God and cared only to seek the pleasure of God. The friend constant in fidelity. Occupied with and attached to God. Obedience. Remember familiarity. Be concerned only with God. Acquaint or to know God. Take pleasure in God. Grateful. Reserve the heart only for God. Helper. Abandon us not to ourselves. Do not be distracted by other than God. To know blessings of God. Adam was distracted by being appointed teacher to the angels, by receiving their prostration, by being conducted around the heavens, by mounting the pulpit, and all the other well-known means recounted in tradition. Thus it was hoped that the fire of his desire for the beauty of the divine presence might somewhat abate, that he might grow attached and accustomed to something new, and that his terror would depart from him. Yet he proclaimed silently all the while, Never, O chosen idol of mine, shall thy love quit my heart, nor thine image, mine. Ay, if after my death thou shouldst come seeking, thou wilt find love for thee still in my rotting bones. Then the divine address was heard, O Adam, enter paradise and live there in joy, eating and resting as thou desirest, and keep the company of whomever thou wilt, O Adam, live thou and thy mate in paradise, and eat plenteously there, as ye desire. Yet still Adam persisted. May my heart never be able to part itself from thee, nor to become familiar with other than thee. Should it cut loose from thy love, whom might it love? And should it leave thy dwelling, where might it go? Since Adam's fear did not diminish and he formed no new attachment, Eve was created of his own self and placed beside him so that he might form intimate attachment to his own kind. He made thereof its pair, that he might find tranquility therein. 17. When Adam gazed on the beauty of Eve, he saw a ray of the beauty of God, and through his contemplation of Eve it became apparent to him that all that is beautiful proceeds from the beauty of God, and he experienced the joy of that beauty anew. O rose, thou art like the face of a loved one. And O wine, thou art as if pressed from her being. O cruel fortune, thine enmity grows with each moment yet withal. Thou resemblest the friend. Then Adam began, in accordance with this fragrant perception, to embrace his mate, and as he discovered the pleasure of that proceeding, the attribute of passion gained mastery over him, the foremost of the animal attributes and the thickest of all veils. The other animal attributes, such as taking pleasure in eating and sleeping, also overcame him. The veils were increased, and his intimate attachment to the divine presence was lessened. For in the measure that the human soul takes delight in animal pleasures and passions, becoming attached to them, the attachment to God that dwells in the heart will decrease. Indeed, so attached did Adam become to paradise in its pleasures that when the temptation of the tree came upon him, approach not this tree 18_EBLLs was able to deceive him with a promise of the kingdom of paradise. Shall I guide thee to the tree of immortality and a kingdom that fadeth not? 19. Adam chose immortality and the kingdom of paradise in preference to God's pleasure, and in the extremity of his greed, at Satan's behest, he abandoned the commands of the all-compassionate one. The jealous wrath of God forthwith fell upon him. O Adam, we did not create thee for the sake of carnal enjoyment and animal pleasure. Did ye think that we created you to know purpose, and that ye are not to be returned unto us? 20. Now that we have left thee for half a day in paradise and placed the veil of pleasure before thee, thou hast begun to forget us and become preoccupied with and attached to other than us, acting with disobedience and eating from the tree. If we leave thee there for a whole day, we fear thou wilt forget us entirely, exchange intimacy for estrangement, and no longer remember us and the grace we have shown thee. The friend that was once constant in fidelity, and cared only to seek our pleasure, is now a distant stranger, and none might think he had ever in his life with us made acquaintance. O Adam, go forth from paradise, and Eve, be parted from him. Get ye down from here, together. 21 crown, leave the head of Adam, and O precious garment, abandon his body. O houris of paradise, beat the two-faced tambourine 22 for Adam to the tune of Adam rebelled against his Lord and erred. 23 We will cast the stone of reproach against the bottle of safety, pour the oil of Adam's self-worship on the soil of abasement and servitude, and strike the blade of his intent against the rock of trial and testing. This is the abode of reproach, the square of destruction, the path for gamblers risking their all. A Kalandar. One must be, with a split hem to one's cloak, to pass by the peril nimbly with cunning. 24. 20 Quran, 23 to 116. 21 Quran, 238. The plural form of the imperative verb in this verse refers to the descendants of Adam, present in potentiality within his loins. 22 It appears that tambourines were often beaten to the accompaniment of taunting verses when it was desired to humiliate someone. For an example from the Saljuk period, Adam was cast forth into the abode of terror that is the world, and separated from his mate and companion. No friend, no companion, no mate, grievous pain, rare sorrow, happy state. When he had wandered distraught for several days in this state and found none to aid him, he turned back to lamenting his ancient sorrow, and the teacher of the unseen world again inscribed the alphabet of his first love on the slate. Once more on the slate of love I have written. Write thou, O idol, on the slate of enticement. Then we may recite, to the master of love, for a few days more our love and enticement. 25. Adam unrolled anew the carpet of lamentation and began to recite, O Lord, we have wronged ourselves. 26 God said to him, O Adam, thou comest to me when all else fails. I am thy beloved on the day of misfortune. He answered, O Lord, this distraught wandering was needed for me to know the value of thy grace and to be truly grateful for thy sovereignty. It was fitting that I should be humiliated and abased so that I might discern the extent of the nobility and dignity thou hast bestowed upon me, and know what favors were conferred on this fistful of dust by thy divine grace. How I was raised from low to high degree, honored by being created in utmost solitude, and separated from other than thee by thy jealous pride. Be thou mine, and I shall be thine. 27 Today, then, I have returned in my frailty to thy gate of generosity, and even though my tongue of excuse is struck dumb, still I say, in patience I bore 2-3 days without thee. But hear my 100 fine, alluring excuses. Beloved, thy grief casts me down to disaster. Come to my aid, before I depart and I vanish. It is related that Adam was left for 400 years thus lamenting and pleading, wandering and distraught, with his eye bathed in the blood of his heart. His almighty Lord, in his splendor and glory, then addressed Adam's yearning soul, his wounded heart, saying, I created thee from a fistful of earth, exalted thee in power and dignity above the cherubim, and caused all to envy thee and fall in prostration before thee. I exposed my glorious presence to the reproach of wilt thou make upon earth. 1. Who shall cause corruption and bloodshed? 28 And on account of thy friendship made an enemy of Azazi. 1. 29 I mounted him on the scaffold of accursedness before thy throne of vice-regency, and because of his refusal to prostrate himself before thee even once, I made his 700,000 years of prostration before me, like scattered dust, and with the blow of depart from here, 30 drove him forth from my proximity. Yet thou hast been ungrateful for all these blessings, ignored my claims upon thee, and not known thine own true worth. Thou hast taken thine enemy to be thy friend, looked upon thy friend as thine enemy, and made us both the subject of talk among friend and foe alike. When the might of our wrath strikes out in accordance with, if ye are ungrateful, truly my chastisement is severe. 31 Thou shouldst receive the first blow with patience, without even wrinkling thy brow, patience, when the first blow falls, on the day when thy fortune suffers decline. Patience it is thou hast to display. When evil enters the account, it's all for the good. No man's foot in the stirrup may constantly stay. But Adam persisted and again hoisted the banner of frailty, and with the pen of pleading inscribed the form of excuse on the page of shortcoming. With heart inflamed and weeping eye, the tongue of his soul spoke thus: should thou draw back thy shade from my head, my wails of lament will start once again. Should thou reject and drive me from thee, I'll be like one sleeping in the realm of the waking. 32. I confess that we are all frail, and thou alone art mighty, that we all fade and pass away, and thou alone remain. That we are all helpless, and thou alone art our helper. That we are all friendless, and thou alone art our friend. Cast not down that which thou hast raised up. Break not that which thou hast fashioned. Humiliate not that which thou hast ennobled. Cause not grief to that which thou hast nurtured in joy. Thou raised us up. Sustain us, then, and abandon us not to ourselves. Forgive us for this rashness, for thou planted this seed, and thou molded this clay. If the fruit be a thorn, thou sowed the seed, or if the garment be silk, thou sewed the cloth. When Adam's pleadings exceeded all bounds and his words reached this extremity, the auspicious son of Adam received words from his Lord, and he turned to him in forgiveness. 33 rose over the horizon, and the true morning of auspicious union dawned. After the dark night of sinister separation, divine grace addressed Adam in his servitude, saying, return, and be more than once thou wert. What thou wert not before, be now. In time of war, thou wert beloved, and equal to the world. See what shall now be thy rank, in time of peace. That which is past, and amity is restored between us. He commanded that the herald of God has chosen Adam. 34. 32 A quatrain written in Razi dialect, i.e., the dialect of Daya's native city, Ray. Since few examples of this dialect are extant and it cannot be reconstructed in its totality, the translation particularly of the second line is tentative. 33 Quran, 237. 34 Quran, 333. Should supplant the cry of Adam rebelled against his Lord and erred. 35 And the worlds of kingship and dominion resounded with the declaration. Then did his Lord choose him, he repented and was guided aright. 36. God's generosity sought excuse for Adam's crime from both friend and foe, saying, he forgot, we found in him no deliberate intent. 37 So draw in henceforth, all of you, the tongue of condemnation, place the seal of courtesy on the lip of silence, and wipe the rust of denial from the face of the mirror. The beloved has been reconciled, 'tis thus it should be. Her infidelity has turned to faith, 'tis thus it should be. 38. Praise be to God for affliction. To the vile it brings pain, but to the noble, redemption. What meant these various workings of our will? only that we were training Adam in the task of vice-regency and bringing to perfection the point of his love through affliction. Trial is appointed over the prophets, and then the saints, and the trial is in proportion to the rank of each. 39. The prophet, upon whom be God's peace and blessings, said, God has 70,000 veils of light in darkness. 3. Know that when the spirit of man was taken from the intimate proximity of the Lord of the worlds and attached to the bodily frame, the dark abode of the elements and the terror-filled realm of this world, it was caused to traverse all the worlds of kingship and dominion. It had bestowed on it the choice essence of each world to accompany it as it proceeded, and was given, too, awareness of all that remained behind in each world, whether beneficial or harmful, that it might attract benefit and repel harm, for the human spirit is inherently disposed to attract benefit and repel harm. When it had traversed several thousand different worlds, both spiritual and corporeal, and finally become a TTA shed to the bodily frame, there had come into being 70,000 veils of light and darkness, for its sight of each object. In the multiple worlds of creation, although later a source of perfection, now had the effect of a veil, and the sum of these veils robbed it of the contemplation of the worlds of dominion, the observation of the beauty of the unity of the essence, the tashte of direct discourse with God and the nobility of nearness unto him. From the supreme zenith of nearness it fell to the lowest nadir of nature. I was content with thee, fate disapproved. I was happy with thee, destiny dissented. We spited the envious, and our night passed in discourse fragrant like wine mingled musk. 2 Quran, 103-1-3. 3 Similar tradition. Recorded by Muslim, Ibn Maya, and Ibn Banba. 124. The veils that cover the human spirit. But when morning dawned, it sundered our union. Remains any joy untarnished by fate? 4. Within a few brief days after being joined to the frame, the pure spirit that for many millennia had been ennobled with untrammeled nearness in utter exclusion of all other became separated by so many veils that it totally forgot those blessings. They forgot God, and he forgot them. 5 Now, however much it reflects, it can recall nothing of that world, but if it were not for the sinister effect of those veils, it would not be so forgetful, exchanging the intimate familiarity once enjoyed for the solitude of its present state and the abandonment of the true beloved. Were we not parted from those that we love, the fates could never lay hold of our souls. Love of the homeland is a part of faith. 12. If man aspires to return by the path whence he came, he has reached the degree of certainty. If he attains his original homeland, he has reached the station of beneficence. 13. If he passes beyond that homeland, he has reached the limit of the threshold of Gnosis. If he does not tarry there and instead enters the forecourt of the Palace of Union, he has reached the rank of direct vision. And as for what lies beyond, it is outside the boundaries of speech and the realm of description. But if that love does not stir and man does not aspire to return, and he instead gives his heart to the world, it is a sign of lack of faith. But he inclined to the world and followed his passions, and his likeness is that of a dog. 14. Whoever remains within the veils and does not yeem to remove them is doomed to eternal loss by the declining day. Truly man is in a state of loss. 15. God swears an oath in these verses that the human spirit, because of its attachment to the bodily frame, inevitably suffers the calamities of loss, and that only those are exempt who, by means of faith and good deeds, deliver the spirit from such misfortune and from the veils to which the bodily attributes give rise. thus enabling the spirit to return to its primal abode. The attachment of the human spirit to the frame and the calamities that arise therefrom may be compared to the sowing of a seed. If man sows a seed and nurtures it, it will increase 100 or 700-fold, and even if he does not sow it, he can benefit from it in some way. But if he sows the seed in the ground and then fails to nurture it, the property of soil is such that it will cause the seed to decay and negate its inherent usefulness. Now the seed of the human spirit, before being sown in the soil of the frame, was given the capacity for hearing the word of God, as is evidenced by the covenant of 1 Am I not your Lord? 16 When man showed himself able to give positive answer, the sowing of this seed took place in order that the vision, speech, and hearing of man might increase 100 or 700-fold. But if the seed be not watered with faith and nurtured with good deeds, it will suffer loss and decrease, and its powers of true vision, hearing, and speech will be lost. Only when watered with faith and nurtured with good deeds will the seed prove fertile and strive upward from the deemed humanity to the world of servitude, escape the abasement of loss, and, in proportion to the aid and nourishment received, attain the degrees of salvation that are the gardens of paradise. If, by virtue of lowly aspiration and foolish disposition, it contents itself mere foliage on the tree, and does not seek to become fruit, it will join the people of paradise with its different degrees. Most of the people of paradise are fools. 17 But if it reaches the station of fruit, which is the rank of Gnosis, then it will join the people of God and his elect. And if God forbid, the seed of the Spirit is not watered with faith and nurtured with good deeds, it will rot in the soil of unredeemed humanity and take to itself the nature of earth. Joining the category of, but he inclined to the world and followed his passions. 18 Then will man be in a state of eternal loss, abiding therein eternally. 19. 16 Quran 7 to 171. Concerning the primordial covenant, see page 35, n. 7. 17 Part of a tradition, the remainder of which slates that most of the people of hellfire are women. For Izanfer, A. IIDZJEMA. Snabs, page 103. 18 Quran 7 to 175. 19 A phrase occurring 12 times in the Quran. 127. Third part, first chapter. When a child first enters existence, the veils of his vision are not firmly fastened, for he has but recently emerged from the divine presence, and the taste of intimacy lingers on in him. As soon as he leaves the womb of his mother, he begins to weep in the pain of separation from the celestial world, and whenever longing overcomes him, he laments and complains, as if his afflicted heart and desolate soul were saying to God, the possessor of glory, the heart on which thou gazed is still struck by grief. On account of thy love, it still moans and laments. The fire in my heart still blazes strong. The tears from my eyes still pour down. 20. Each moment the child is charmed and distracted with some different object suited to the vision of his senses and attractive to his nature, so that he forgets the other world and forms attachments to this one. But when he is alone again, he will dream of the world he left behind, like the elephant remembering India, and resume his weeping and lamentation. This occurs most frequently at night, for during the day his gaze is distracted with sense objects, whereas at night such distraction decreases, and weeping and lamentation correspondingly increase. Night has come, and I turn back to my grief, and my eye, as wonted, turns back to its weeping. My heart's blood pours down from each eyelash a spit, with a piece of my liver impaled on its tip. 21. He created the heavens and earth in 6 days and nights and did not bestow on them the honor of, with my hands, even though they formed the macrocosm, but to the creation of Adam, the microcosm, he assigned no less than 40 days, and he bestowed on him too the cloak of honor of, with my hands, so that the unaware might realize that he has a distinction in the Almighty presence, which no other being enjoys. Moreover, through the property of, with my hands, a mystery was secreted in Adam's nature upon which all other beings were dependent for their creation. All these honors pertain to his frame, the microcosm corresponding to the macrocosm, but consider the special dignity bestowed on his spirit by the Almighty, for I inhaled in him from my spirit. 36. Compared to the infinitude that the realm of the spirit thus acquired, this world, the hereafter, and all therein appear to be a mere microcosm. When I dispatch the spirit as my vice-regent and bestow deputyhood upon it, it must therefore be with all manner of dignity and honor. I have thus ordered the cherubim to prostrate themselves before the spirit when it mounts the throne of vice-regency. All must behold the signs of dignity and honor I have bestowed upon it, and perceive thereby the magnitude of its rank. Then the pure spirit of Adam, having passed several thousand years in successive 40-day periods of prayer in the retreat of the secluded shrine of sanctity, having been honored with the gaze of grace, in the station of immediacy, and having learned the customs and norms of vice-regency, the conditions and conventions of deputyship from God, the overlord, for unless the deputy and vice-regent of a king has spent a lifetime in the king's presence being trained in the practice and customs of rule, he will not be qualified for deputyship or vice-regency. Then was his pure spirit seated on the unique mount of, I inhaled in him. 5. Intelligence ran along at his stirrup. Love made its way to his shade. The trappings on his bay mount's neck were moonlight, and the tress of his black standard was dark night. 6. Clothed in a cloak of honor that was inscribed, of my spirit, it was borne through all the spiritual and corporeal domains, and at each station and stopping place, they brought forward the essence and choice part of the buried treasures that were hidden there, and sent them with it as it proceeded on its way. Finally it was seated as vice-regent on the throne of the bodily frame in the kingdom of humanity, and immediately the entire exalted host, cherubim and spirit beings, fell prostrate before the throne, and the angels prostrated themselves, all with one accord. 7. Gabriel was then appointed chancellor at Adam's court, and Michael as treasurer, and all the other angels were also given some post, in each beauty displaying mirror that was placed in Adam's being was set to a beauty-perceiving eye, so that as God might behold himself in the mirror, through 1,001 apertures, so too Adam might behold him with 1,001 eyes. When thou lookest upon me, my whole body becomes a heart. Thus did the frame of Adam lie for 40,000 years between Mecca and Taif, and each moment some delicate jewel, some noble essence from the hidden treasuries of the unseen, was implanted within his being. All the precious contents of those treasuries were buried in Adam's clay, until when it was the turn of his heart, the clay for it was brought from the soil of paradise, soaked in the water of eternal life, and nurtured in the sunlight of 360 divine glances. Heed now the subtle truth inherent in this figure of 360. Adam's clay was kneaded for 40,000 years, and 40,000 years is equivalent to 360,000 times 40 days. Upon completing each 1,000th period of 40 days, Adam's clay became deserving of one divine glance, and when 360,000 such periods had been completed, it became worthy of 360 glances. The creation of the human frame. One glance from the friend, and happiness by the 100,000. I wait upon the time when that one glance is given. Now when the heart reached this stage of perfection, there was a jewel in the treasure house of the unseen that was hidden even to the gaze of the treasurers and guarded by God himself in his own divine person. For he proclaimed, there is no treasury worthy of this jewel other than our presence, or the heart of Adam. And the jewel was the jewel of love, secreted within the shell of the trust of knowledge that had been offered to all the worlds of kingship and dominion. But none was deemed a fit treasury for housing the jewel, or a proper treasurer for guarding it. Only the heart of Adam was fit to be treasury, for it had been nurtured by the sun of the divine glance, and only the soul of Adam was worthy to act as treasurer, for it had been nourished several 1,000 years on the effulgent light of the attributes of majesty, of the unity of the essence. I became enthralled by that idol on the day that Adam was lying between Mecca and Tai Pound. Strange it is that several thousand kindnesses and favors were lavished on Adam's heart and soul by God's uncaused grace, both in the seen and the unseen worlds, and none of it was confided to the cherubim, so that they all remained ignorant of Adam's true nature. One by one they passed by Adam and said, what strange image is this, now being adorned? What creature of manifold hue, about to emerge from the veil of the unseen? Adam, meanwhile, said softly to himself, even if you do not know me, I know you. Wait until I raise my head from sweet sleep, and I shall recite your names one by one. For among the jewels that had been buried within him was the knowledge of all names, and he taught Adam all the names